Hi there, everybody. Welcome back to 3 News Now. I'm Stephanie Haney. It's Wednesday, October 21st. This is where I bring you the top headlines from WKYC.com and our WKYC app. Thank you so much for choosing to be here to get filled in on what's impacting you here in Northeast Ohio. We're starting today with a story that everyone is talking about today after President Donald Trump tweeted comments about a CBS interview that he was a part of last night. So the New York Times is reporting that the president cut off an interview with 60 Minutes that was happening at the White House after getting upset over questions that were asked. That's according to the New York Times report, and the president did seem to back that up in tweets that he posted last night. So the interview was happening at the White House on Tuesday as part of a CBS special that is supposed to air on Sunday. The interview was with Lesley Stahl. So according to the Times, President Donald Trump was not happy with the line of questioning, and the president spent about 45 minutes talking with Lesley Stahl before telling the team that he felt that they had enough to use and he wasn't going to continue with the interview. He was also supposed to participate in sort of a walk and talk style interview with Vice President Mike Pence and Lesley Stahl. However, the Times is reporting that the president refused to participate in that. Mike Pence did continue on with his portion of the interview, but the president did not at that point. So the president then tweeted, presumably after the interview had ended, a video of Lesley Stahl, and he tweeted these words: "Lesley Stahl of 60 Minutes not wearing a mask in the White House after her interview with me. Much more to come." It was later reported that Lesley Stahl got up after the president walked out of the interview and was talking to her producers immediately after before she was able to go back to where her personal things were and put her mask on. But she did arrive to the White House wearing a mask and was wearing a mask until she began the interview with the president. Now, Lesley Stahl was also hospitalized with COVID-19. We learned that in May after she recovered from having to be in the hospital from severe pneumonia related to COVID-19. Of course, the president, we know, was just hospitalized within the past several weeks related to COVID-19. After that, President Donald Trump tweeted this. He said that he would potentially be posting the 60 Minutes interview before it airs so that everyone can get what he says is a glimpse of a fake and biased interview. And he said that everyone should compare his interview with CBS to what he called an electoral intrusion. He called that interview an electoral intrusion and said that people should compare it to recent interviews with a nickname that he has given former Vice President Joe Biden. He called him Sleepy Joe Biden in the tweet. You can see that tweet on President Donald Trump's timeline if you would like. Now, remains to be seen whether the president will actually be posting any footage from that interview, but the special is set to air at 7:30 on Sunday, and it will also include interviews with Democratic presidential candidate Joe Biden and current Senator and Vice Presidential candidate Kamala Harris, who will be interviewed by CBS Evening News anchor Norah O'Donnell. It is also possible that we will see this topic discussed during the second and final presidential debate, which is happening on Thursday. That will air right here on NBC. You can watch that on TV. That's from 9 to 10:30 on Thursday night. That's taking place in Nashville, and it will be moderated by NBC News' White House correspondent, Kristen Welker, with those new rules that were put in place by the Commission on Presidential Debates, where those mics will be muted for the first 2 minutes of everyone's talk time. So it'll be interesting to see what happens on Thursday and if this issue is discussed at that point. In other news related to President Donald Trump, there are now tax records, according to the New York Times, that show President Donald Trump did try to land deals in China, but according to his team, was unsuccessful, but did have to pay almost $200,000 in taxes to China as a result of trying to secure those deals over the course of a decade. The New York Times is reporting that the president had an office in China during his first run for president, also formed a partnership with a major government-controlled company, and had a bank account there, which he used to pay those hundreds of thousands of dollars in local taxes. Now, the president also has foreign accounts in Northern Ireland and the UK, which appear to be the only foreign countries, those 3 foreign countries, China, Northern Ireland, and the United Kingdom, where the president has foreign bank accounts. That's according to a New York Times review of his tax records. Now, these foreign bank accounts don't show up on the president's public financial disclosures because they're held under corporate names. The account in China is controlled by Trump International Hotels Management, LLC, and tax records, according to the New York Times, show that the president paid $188,561 in taxes in China while he was pursuing different licensing deals there from 2013 to 2015. Now, Alan Gardner, who is a lawyer for the Trump Organization, said the company opened that account with a Chinese bank that has offices in the U.S. in order to pay the local taxes associated with trying to do business in China. And the accounts were opened after establishing an office in China, so confirming, yes, there is a Chinese bank account, yes, taxes were paid, and yes, there was an office in China. And Garden said that that was to explore the potential for hotel deals in Asia. Now, Garden also said no deals, transactions, or other business activities ever actually came to pass. And since 2015, he says the office has remained completely inactive, but the bank account is open, though it hasn't been used for any other purpose. So that's the breakdown about the news that you're seeing about the president previously trying to secure deals in China. Now, switching gears, let's talk about the Cleveland Browns because we haven't talked about them enough this week. Well, now there's an ESPN analyst who conveniently is a former safety for the Steelers who has some pretty harsh words about the Cleveland Browns quarterback, Baker Mayfield. We're talking about NFL analyst and former Pittsburgh Steelers safety Ryan Clark. So he made these comments on ESPN's Get Up. There's been a lot of conversation about Baker Mayfield's role in Sunday's loss to the Pittsburgh Steelers. That loss was 38-7. Of course, a lot of analysts also pointed out the fact that there were a lot of injuries on the Cleveland Browns, Baker Mayfield included, who had rib injuries after getting banged up in that game against the Indianapolis Colts. Well, Clark said that despite Cleveland head coach Kevin Stefanski's best efforts to protect Baker Mayfield, that Mayfield is what's stopping the Browns from progressing as a team. He said this. He said, last year, the Browns built the team with Baker as the foundation and that house was built on sand. It wasn't built on brick. It wasn't built on stone. So Clark says this year, the approach was different, and Stefanski has taken the approach of building a house around Baker Mayfield to protect him. Clark says what Baker has done is lit the fire that is going to burn this house down. What Clark pointed to specifically from that loss on Sunday to the Pittsburgh Steelers was that interception that Baker Mayfield threw to the Steelers safety Minkah Fitzpatrick. That gave the Steelers an early 10-0 lead because that did result in a touchdown for the Steelers. And according to Clark, after that happened, that let the Steelers play a more aggressive style of defense for the rest of the game because they had that comfortable 10-0 lead very early on in the game. So Clark says now the Browns team is in trouble. He says it's not necessarily in trouble in that they won't get games or they won't win games, or they won't find ways to fight for the wild card spot. But Clark says when you draft a number one guy overall, which Baker Mayfield was the number one draft in 2018, he says that says, I believe this guy is our franchise guy who can take us to the promised land. And Clark says Baker Mayfield cannot. But not so fast here, okay? Let's just take a look at some stats that I looked up while I was taking a look at what Clark had to say about Baker Mayfield and the Browns. Under Baker Mayfield, since he first began starting for the Browns in Week 4 of the 2018 season, the Browns' record is 16 wins and 19 losses. The 3 years before Baker, that's the 2015 season, the 2016 season, and the 2017 season, the Browns had 4 wins and 44 losses. So yeah, we're talking about a whole nother season there. But one of those seasons we went 0-16, you guys. So are we maybe asking a little bit too much? You know, this is Baker's 3rd season in the NFL. I'm not a football expert by any means, but I'm just saying 16 and 19 sounds a whole lot better than 4 and 44. And we're 4-2 right now. That is a great record for the Cleveland Browns. And we are heading into some games that the experts, who are paid a lot of money to know about this, say it's pretty likely that we'll win, especially because we're facing the Cincinnati Bengals on Sunday, who have won 1 game, lost 4 games, including 1 to us, and tied 1 game. So maybe let's just see what happens. But I know it's his job to do the projecting, and it's fun to talk about, so that's why we're talking about. But I'm just saying, let's just see what happens. All right, one more story for you before we go here. Two more stories here. We're going to tell you one story about a North Canton ALS patient that is fighting to fast track promising drugs to help fight ALS, and then we'll get into that last one. Who we're talking about right now is Susie Van Vranken. She is a North Cantonian, and she is advocating for a bill that is coming up potentially in Congress that would help people get access to drugs that show promise to fight ALS because of clinical trials, and there's one happening right now in Boston. So Susie is fighting for quicker access to these drugs because the prognosis for people who are diagnosed with ALS is bleak and it moves quickly. She was diagnosed with ALS just over a year ago in August of 2018. Before that, a major pillar in the North Canton community. She was on the North Canton Board of Education until last December, when ALS forced her to step down. Now, if you aren't aware, ALS is a neurodegenerative disease. So that means it strikes nerve cells in the brain and the spinal cord. It's also known as Lou Gehrig's disease. And as of right now, it is a death sentence. And for Susie right now, it's already begun to impact her speech. She says she's seeing decreases in her health as quickly as every 2 weeks. Now, the average life expectancy for someone with ALS is between 2 to 5 years from the time of diagnosis. Before the pandemic, Susie was being treated at the Cleveland Clinic's Mellon Center, and she was getting occupational therapy and physical therapy and seeing a social worker and 2 neurologists. But since March, Susie hasn't even been able to have a physical therapist in her home because it's too dangerous because of the pandemic. So Susie says this has given her a keen awareness of the time that she has left and what she wants to do with it. And she says she wants to fight for people with ALS, even if it might be too late for her. She says this bill needs more sponsors if it's going to get introduced in Congress and pick up any steam. So what she is asking is for people to read that draft bill, which you can check out. We have that linked on WKYC.com. You can check that out. And if you feel so inclined, there's also the link there to sign on to your support to the bill, which would give ALS patients quicker access to the drugs that are becoming available in these clinical trials. Now, here's that last story I promised you before we let you go here. It is the end of an era for Charlie Brown and his crew, Snoopy, Linus, the whole gang, Lucy, everybody, because the Peanuts holiday specials will not be airing on broadcast TV for the very first time since they debuted. That's because Apple TV Plus announced on Monday that it now has the exclusive rights to the Peanuts holiday special. So we're talking about It's the Great Pumpkin Charlie Brown. We're talking about a Charlie Brown Thanksgiving and a Charlie Brown Christmas. The Charlie Brown Christmas was the first one that debuted in 1965. So this will be the first time that these Peanuts specials haven't aired for free on over-the-air broadcast television since that Christmas special debuted in 1965. But all hope is not lost. There is some good news for people who do not have Apple TV Plus. Apple has said that it will allow people to watch these iconic specials that are such an integral part of so many families' holiday experiences for free during select windows. So if you can be flexible, you can still watch Charlie Brown and all of the crew celebrating the holidays on certain days. So we've got them all laid out on WKYC.com. I'll break them down for you very quickly right now. The Halloween special will air for free on October 30th and November 1st. The Charlie Brown Thanksgiving special will air for free from November 25th to November 27th. And the Charlie Brown Christmas special will air for free from December 11th through December 13th. Again, you can check that out on WKYC.com. And you do not have to necessarily have an Apple device to do that either, by the way. And I just want to take this time to remind you that 3 News Now with Stephanie Haney is also available now as a podcast. So if you're listening on the podcast, thanks for doing that. Now is a great time to subscribe to the show, give it a rating and a review, and let us know what you're thinking about it. You can find us on every single podcast platform. Just search for 3 News Now with Stephanie Haney. 3 News is one word, and it is the number 3. That is it for your 3 News Now early update for Wednesday, October 21st. I'll be back this afternoon with the latest update from the Ohio Department of Health and also the top stories from WKYC.com and your WKYC app. Everyone have a great rest of your afternoon. Stay safe and be well. I'm Stephanie Haney.